Okay, I'm creating this video with actually very little prep work, but this is just something that's been in the news. It's a lot better, I think, if you can actually see some graphic to understand and relate to the impact of what's been in the mainstream media recently. The story has to do with the splitting of the polar vortex. And that's what you can see right here. In fact, if I move my cursor, you can see there's the North Pole, or the rotational axis of the planet. And we have one vortex, and then we have two vortexes. And what this does is, well, it creates a lot of interesting kind of currents. And we are, by the way, way up in the atmosphere. All right, so we're the highest level of the atmosphere. The lower the number, the lower the pressure. The lower the pressure, it means the higher you are in the atmosphere, right? So we're way, way high in the atmosphere, and so we're looking at the kind of currents that don't get interrupted by things like mountains, by highly active thermal convection, and things like that. So it's unusual that at this altitude you would have something that's where a vortex actually splits and creates two very strong vortexes, and that's why it's in the news. The impact on this is, the way I look at it, this impacts the jet stream. The jet stream impacts our weather, right? So what does it do to the jet stream? Well, let's first of all, we'll skip forward to the 20th. This is when all the articles were coming out and so forth. So it's still here. This lower one is weakening a bit, but what I want to do is come to the upper level of the jet stream in altitude or pressure, okay? And you can see we've got some crazy jet streams going on. Just very strange in several ways, but it certainly has kind of left the building when it comes to normalcy. But let's move down here, and we'll move all around. So if you're not in the United States, we'll definitely cover the rest of the world, because this is kind of really interesting how this is working. You can see the stream coming from way up here. So there's Alaska. It's hopping north of Alaska and then dropping straight down over the west coast United States. Well, what is the weather saying? The weather is saying we're going to have extreme cold on the west coast United States, probably record-setting colds. And then we're going to have, on the east coast, record-setting highs. And you can see we've got weather coming from the south end of Mexico here, and pulling right up over the east coast United States. Very, very warm weather coming in here. What happens in between? Well, we have really, really cold air, really, really warm air. The Midwest United States is going to see a lot of precipitation. In fact, I'm thinking probably like tornadoes, all kinds of wind-related and weather events happening across the Midwest. So fasten your chin strap if you're out there. But that is quite unique, and you can kind of see that the jet stream normally kind of works around the same latitude and goes up and down to some degree, but it is currently going all over the place because it just doesn't know what to do with two polar vortexes going on, right? If we move around, then you can see Europe is on the other side of this vortex situation. And they've got sort of a situation we had in the United States a couple weeks ago, where they have weather coming down from the North Pole and dropping all the way. Here's Spain. It's kind of hard to see under all these lines. In fact, maybe I can drop down one level, a little lower in the jet stream. It makes it easier to see what's going on with these jet streams. But we got weather coming straight down across Europe. Very, very cold weather in Europe, mixing again with some warm air and causing storms and things of that nature coming across here. Now, if we move on over, a lot of people are interested in Korea because of the Olympics, and you can see here again. See what's going on here? So we have weather coming from way north, like Siberia, pushing down and swooping over Korea. Meanwhile, warm air pushing up into it. So that's why you're hearing a lot about snow and interesting weather, even in Korea, Japan. I mean, basically everything in the northern hemisphere right now is experiencing some strange, either warm or cold, setting highs, setting lows, records. And it's really just, for lack of a better term, interesting to see what's going on. This is exaggerated, folks. I mean, I'm not saying the end is nigh. I'm saying this is an interesting system, and we're in an interesting pattern. If you look back at my previous video with the Beaufort, gyre and the fresh water, you can see how things are kind of warming up, and so we're likely to see more melt. We're likely to see more fresh water. We're likely to see a lot of things. And I'm looking at wind now. I'm not looking at water temperature, which is what I looked at in my last video. But those water temperatures, as I did mention in my last video, the biggest driver of air temperature is water temperature. And so with the water currents moving and warm water moving in those currents, we're seeing all kinds of uplift, higher levels of evaporation. All of that is affecting the wind currents going over the North Pole. This is bringing about a washing of all that really cold air off of the North Pole. So you're seeing warmer weather at the North Pole than usual, and you're seeing colder weather where all that cold air is being pushed to. Just dynamic, right? Completely dynamic, and kind of hard to predict more than a day or two out what is, what's going to be happening with the weather and how this is going to shake out. I will tell you one thing that's kind of interesting. I'll just do this and then I'll close. If we go back up to the higher level, you can see that this split vortex, the lower one here that's pushing down over the United States right now, is weakening. And if I go maybe forward even one more step, see, it's weakening even more. This one's strengthening. So you say, oh, we were back to normal, right? Look at where the center is. Okay? It's approaching Siberia over here, the northern end of Russia. But the North Pole is way over here. So one of the things I'm watching, just to see how this shakes out, is as this system continues to weaken, how fast or how long does it take for this to spring back over and center more appropriately on the North Pole? Or are we shifting? But this is causing the weather that we're seeing today, along with these giant, at this altitude, vortexes that have created and built themselves up to create some real swirling wind and unpredictable jet streams. But anyway, that's pretty much the news today. There's a lot of other things going on. Of course, all around the world we continue to see flooding. We see this strange water receding, beaches that wind up with extreme low tides, as if a tsunami is coming in, and then there's no tsunami. It just 18 hours or something later, it comes back up where it should be. So there's some really interesting weather stuff going on. And if anything really hits the news, I'll be sure and create another video. But in the meantime, I hope this helps to explain a little bit of what's going on with the weather in your area, as well as what you might be hearing about in the news. Have a great day.